Hi, and welcome to Unlocking Black History. I'm Kevin Zimmerman, and I'm glad to be back here with you guys on this Monday. If you've never been with me before, I often share, for the sake of understanding, is that the purpose of Unlocking Black History is to highlight the plights of Blacks in America. And I think that needs to be clear because today's live session we're going to be covering uh, this session, going over a question that was asked by someone by who goes by at Statement 99 in reference to my YouTube short video, The Legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King, The Rights Rolled Back in 2026. And the question was exactly which rights have been rolled back. And although I don't deny the legitimacy of that question, and I did provide an answer since the question was asked, and I provided an answer also because not only because it was asked, but others see the comments when someone makes them, and if someone makes a comment, it warrants a response if it makes sense, of course. But in answering the question, I'm also going to share with you a question that I've asked. And that question is this: before you ask a question like that, for example, um, the video was Dr. Martin Luther King's legacy, and the key point made was rights being rolled back in 2026 and referencing those rights that he won in 1964 when, at the signing of the Civil Rights Act. But my question is, why don't you research which rights are being rolled back for yourself? It's hard for me to gauge the sincerity of an individual when you blatantly just ask, okay, tell me what rights are being rolled back, when the information is made available. Um, I can let you know this: when it comes to the plight of blacks America, the plights of blacks in America, and when it comes to the challenges that we're facing when it comes to the plight of blacks in America. Um, there's often pushback from the other side. And hey there, Miss Valor, how are you? Thank you for coming on at this time. I want to share with you something here real quick. Typically, I do these on Mondays at noon, from noon to 12:30. But at noon tomorrow, I have a doctor's appointment. But I think it's important that I address the audience, especially in reference to a question that was asked about Dr. Martin Luther King's legacy, a video that was put out. I'm sure you may have seen that. If not, it's out there. And the question that was asked was, what rights are being rolled back? And so it's important, I feel, that I answer that. But thank you very much. And make sure I say hello to you as well. Hello. Say hi, Miss Valor 000. Thank you for joining. And so I am. I'm addressing that. And if you just came on, although the question was asked, I made sure that I also asked the question, asked my own question, and that's anytime someone asks a question such as, "What civil rights have been rolled back?" Um, my response is, if you're really serious about knowing what rights have been rolled back, if you're being legitimate when you ask a question, then why don't you research that for yourself? Because there's plenty of information that is out there. And when it comes to examining the plights of blacks in America, I can tell you that No one here is claiming to be the victim. We're not claiming to be the victim. As a matter of fact, we've overcome every barrier and obstacle that has been put in our way. But the truth of the matter is, barriers and obstacles are often put in our way. But I also, too, like to leave some references to be able to help anyone understand. And so, one of the references that I think would be beneficial when it comes to looking at what's happening in the American workplace when it comes to rights, or when it comes to not just the American workplace, but we can look at housing and the lending institutions, we can look at education, and we can look at a lot of things that show how the pattern has evolved. Because one thing that is well documented and that we don't have to fabricate or try to make up is that racism evolves over time. And this book is called Gray Areas: How the Way That We Work Perpetuates Racism and What We Can Do to Fix It. I think that book is a good reference. But another good reference that I have that I would recommend is to watch this documentary. The documentary is called White Like Me, and it's by Tim Wise. And Tim Wise talks about race, racism, and white privilege in America. And so when one asks a question, what rights are being rolled back? These two pieces of a plethora amount of information that's out there would clearly be able to help understand what rights are out there and what rights that Dr. Martin Luther King fought hard for when he obtained the Civil Rights Bill in 1964, and what those rights are being rolled back. But if, for the sake of this live session, one of the responses that I gave was this one: the Executive Order 14173, which ended what they call illegal discrimination and restored what they called merit-based opportunity, which revoked the long-standing Executive Order 11246. And the Executive Order 11246 is equal employment opportunity. Now, this is where I think we have to take a look at these things when someone asks questions like this. First of all, what was equal employment opportunity and what was it meant to do? The equal employment opportunity prohibited discrimination based on race, color, creed, and national origin. Once again, equal employment opportunity discriminated. It made it illegal to discriminate against race, color, creed, or national origin. And the act was signed in 1965. And so, since that is the case, what we need to do is what? Go back to 1965 and ask ourselves, what was the state of America in 1965? Well, we know that in 1965, that's 1 year after the signing of the Civil Rights Act in 1964, we were still in a time where legal racial segregation was still being carried out in the United States. In the South, Jim Crow laws were still being enforced. And I know sometimes, I wonder sometimes if those who are not impacted, or whose ancestors or whose relatives or ancestors have never been impacted by these things, then can you not comprehend that just because a bill was signed, just because something was written into law, doesn't mean that thing was fully accepted and adopted and implemented in the American society? This bill, that the executive order 11246 was done because equal opportunities were not being given to Black Americans in 1965. Okay. But yet the economy was growing and CEOs were making 20 times more than the workers. CEOs, meaning the C suites of the people today. They were making 20 times more than the workers were making. But yet, the unemployment rate, when we looked at the unemployment rate in 1965, the unemployment rate showed that Blacks in America was 2 times more employed or twice more unemployed than white America. And so I'm going to show this graph here so we can get some understanding. It says this is the annual unemployment rate of whites and Blacks from 1963 and then, of course, through the recession. And then this one is up until 2012. And when you do an average and a comparison from 1963 all the way to 2012, we still see over all of those years that the unemployment rate demonstrates that Black Americans are 2 times likely to be unemployed than white America. Now help me make sense of that. And I get some people have said to me, but it's not like that anymore. Then I beg to differ, because what I'm going to show you here is this graph. This graph shows us that in 2024, the unemployment rate for white men is 3.4%. But in 2025, the unemployment rate for white men is 3.5%. So 2024, 3.4, 2025, 3.5. And mind you, the executive order rolling back, executive order 11246 for equal employment opportunity, that was signed in 2025. White women in 2024, unemployment rate 3.8%. In 2025, white women, unemployment rate 3.7%. Now, mind you, I've been told it's not like that anymore. And I'm sure some of you probably have heard the same thing. But here it is, 2024. And the unemployment rate for Black men in 2024, 5.8%. But look at 2025, 7%. Look at unemployment rate of Black women in 2024, 6.3%. 2025, 7.8%. So we can look at the trend from 1963 all the way up to 2025 and onward as we're now in 2026. And the numbers show, and remind you, these numbers came from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. The numbers that I've showed you from 1963 to 2012, that was from the U.S. Census Bureau. So this is not a third-party data collection agency. This is the U.S. Census Bureau, and this is the Bureau of Labor Statistics that is still showing that the unemployment rates amongst Blacks versus whites in America is still 2 times more. We are still 2 times more. We are likely to double, sometimes more than double the unemployment rate than white America. What's mind blowing about that is when we look at the American population, white people make up 58% of the American population. And these is white non-Hispanic, make up 58%. Blacks in America make up approximately 13% of the American population. So white non-Hispanics make up 58% of the American population, and blacks only make up 13% of the American population. Then how is it that blacks are still twice as much as whites in the area of unemployment? Make that make sense. And so one could ask, when we looked at the disparity in the unemployment, and we look at the American population, and we look at that comparison, and we look at the rights that just got rolled back, the Equal Opportunity Employment Right, Executive Order 11246 just got rolled back. Why is that being rolled back when we're already twice more likely to be unemployed than white America? To answer the question, I'm going to ask you to look at some additional references that I provided for you that can kind of help you get an understanding of what's happening. One, I would ask you to read Chapter 2 of W.E.B. Du Bois's book, Black Reconstruction in America. And after you read Chapter 2 of Black Reconstruction in America by W.E.B. Du Bois, I would like for you to read the book called The Wages of Whiteness. And that book is called Race and the Making of the American Working Class. Now, the reason I want you to read these books, the reason I want you to look at these references, and you can find more. You certainly can find more. But let me tell you what happened during Reconstruction and what we're seeing today. There is a thing called white replacement theory that I believe is a real thing. Again, this is my belief. I'm not asking anybody else to believe it. But just like what happened in Reconstruction, during the Reconstruction era, the poor white argued to the government that they had to do something to eliminate the competition of the free blacks because they could not compete with the free blacks. They actually let the government know that you need to do something because we cannot compete with the Negro because we have no knowledge nor no skill. The poor white had one thing going for them in their favor, and that was the privilege of whiteness. But they didn't know what to plant, how to plant, or when to plant it. When you look at Washington, D.C. itself, and you look at the White House and the Capitol, and you look at the architecture there, history, the whitewash history of America will tell you that the slaves that built the White House and the Capitol were ignorant and not well knowledgeable, or that they didn't possess a skill. They were highly skilled artisans. And when you see the Statue of Freedom sitting on top of the Capitol, that statue would not be there if it was not for the skill and the knowledge of a black man by the name of Philip Reed. Because when France send that over because they designed it in, I want to say Italy. I could be mistaken there, but I believe I am correct by saying when they sent the Statue of Freedom over to the United States, they sent it in pieces. And the one person that had the knowledge and the skill set to be able to put it together and have it assembled and placed on top of the Capitol where it is still standing, representing freedom, was a man who was not free, and his name was Philip Reed. But all of the workers were highly skilled, educated workers. It is the whitewashing of America when they talk about the plights of blacks in America that would lead you to believe that we are not knowledgeable, that we are not skillful, in spite of the demonstrations of us being so. And because the population is shifting in America. White America is no longer being, or their white America is recognizing that it's no longer going to be the majority. And so there are things being put in place to try to secure that position of power, because one thing that is being feared is for Black Americans and people of color to not only be in position of power, but to be in positions to make the determination of who gets what resources and who gets to dictate what the laws are. I still say January 6th happened. The administration that we see happened because President Barack Obama was elected. When President Barack Obama was elected, you had a Black man sitting in the office of the presidency. And it is my opinion that some in white America said that's a bridge too far. Okay, but let's go on and talk about what's happening here as far as the rights that's being rolled back. Well, along with the rolling back of 11246, there is another part of this that we're seeing, and that's the rolling back in August. In August, this was rolled back, and it's called the disparate impact, and that was rolled back as well. And what disparate impact is it shows how things. Let me use this. It says desperate impacts, which allows for legal changes against policies that, while they appear to be neutral, disproportionately harm minority groups in housing, lending, and employment. Yes, that got rolled back once again. The desperate impact standard, which allowed for legal challenges against policies that, while appear to be neutral, disproportionately harm minority groups in housing, lending, and employment. I got to make something clear here because I heard this once before as well. And what I heard was, okay, you're one of those left wing podcast groups, and that is not so. I focus on the plights of blacks in America, but it's impossible to not tie in the acts of particular political parties that have an impact on the plight of blacks in America. So you cannot talk about the plights of blacks in America without talking about the policies that impact Black Americans and which parties put those measures in place. In this case, it is the current administration that rolled these rights back. And so I asked the question, When you say, when it is said that all of these decisions, these rights, people who get these rights, these things should be merit based, then who's making the determination of what is merit based? Because the numbers are grossly disproportionate. No one can tell us that we're not educated anymore. No one can tell us that we're not highly skilled anymore. No one can tell us that we're not competitive anymore. We've always been competitive. We've always been highly skilled, and we've been educated. So why are these rights being rolled back? Makes no sense. Make it make sense. I love to hear what you got to say. So that's going to be what I cover today. That's my time is coming to an end. But I also want to share with you, if you would like to continue unlocking Black history with me, please join me at Unlocking Black History on YouTube. There are over 500 videos there that cover from the arrival of Black Americans in 1619 all the way through the present, and things that happen in between when it talks about the plight of Blacks in America. I would love for you to share that information and help me fight against the erasure of Black history, because that is what motivated me to do this. So, once again, thank you so much for joining us here, joining me here. And look forward. I asked you to look forward to the video where one video is already out. It came out today, and please go watch that one and watch the other videos as well. I have a great team that works with me. Please know that the videos that you see are not just me. They are not just me. I have a wonderful team that we look at all of the information. I gather the information. I try to keep my finger on the pulse of what I believe that America is asking for or need in the area of Black history, and we will make sure that our history will not be erased by anyone, because we'll tell the story. But we need your help. We need you to go watch the videos, like the videos, and share the videos. And at any time, any questions come up regarding the videos, you can come on here with us on YouTube Live. And if the comment is made, we'll discuss it. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, there's one of our guys right there, CBJ Torres. Thank you so much for coming on. Let me say hello to you, because I want to acknowledge you for coming on as well. I really appreciate it. So once again, that's my time, and I look forward to seeing you guys live again next Monday. Oh, well, this one actually will show tomorrow at 12 o'clock, from 12 to 12:30 noon. So have someone log on if they are not on now. Tell your family and your friends to come and check it out. Thank you. Take care.